Hello and welcome to the fourth course in our data analytics training from DataFad Academy. Okay, let's head over to the classroom as we look at the topics or the modules we'll be treating this week. So this is course 4, week 1, spreadsheet for data analytics. In this course and this week, we shall be looking at introduction to spreadsheet for data analytics. Of course, the software we are most interested in to working with throughout this course is Google Sheets. So I'll be introducing you to Google Sheets interface and features. We'll look at data entry and formatting, basic functions and formulas, sorting, filtering, and data validation, and more. All right, let's get started as we get introduced to spreadsheets. I'll open this module and let's view the material. Okay, so just like I've highlighted here, a spreadsheet is a tool utilized for storing, managing, and analyzing data. Now, in a bit, I would introduce you to spreadsheets by getting it opened here right here on my computer, and I would like you to follow the same steps. Now, the one basic criteria that you have to satisfy before you can work with spreadsheets is to have a Google account because Google Sheet, I mean, when I say spreadsheet here, I'm referring to Google Sheet because that is the tool we're working with, just like I said earlier. Google Sheet is a software that is designed or developed by Google. So, and is a cloud-based application or software. So, as much uh, provided you have a Google account, once you're signed in, your Gmail, once you're signed in, then you have access to the tool. Now, how do we get it opened? So I want to open Google Sheet in a new tab. Just come over to this plus sign. This is where you add a new tab. Click on new tab. Once the tab is opened, head over to Google Apps, icon, this icon right here to open the Google Apps. Select it. And once you do, you see different Google Apps that you should have access to. Scroll over and then select Sheets. Once sheet is selected, this is opened. You have the templates. These are different templates you can work with: to-do lists, annual budgets, monthly budgets, Google Finance investment, and lots more. And you can click on this blank spreadsheet to open the blank sheet. Then you have some other sheets that has been worked on or opened before with by you or different other persons that you've collaborated with. So let's open a blank spreadsheet. So click on this plus sign to create a blank spreadsheet. So this is a new spreadsheet. And why is it called spreadsheet? So let's just get introduced to this. Let's first of all, before we go on, if you want to rename your spreadsheet, you can always do that from this section. Once it is opened, click here, and once you click, you see that the untitled spreadsheet is highlighted. Just go ahead and rename it to whatever you want to name it. All right, let's get this titled as introduction to spreadsheet. So that's the title of this sheet. Now, a spreadsheet is just an application or a tool that is made up of rows and columns. So it has a lot of cells in them or in it. So you can see this highlighted or selected area is called a cell. Okay, these are different cells I'm selecting, and these cells are put together or made up they are made up of the intersection of rows and columns. So the rows are numbered. You guys can see you have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to the end. So these are different rows, and then the columns are letter. We have the lettered columns: letter A, letter B, letter C, letter D, and you have that up to the last column. Let's get to see what we have at the last column. So for Google Sheets here, the last column that we have right here, let's see if you can scroll more, is Z. That is from A to Z. Okay. But if you're working with Excel, you can have up to XFD. I think rows, columns columns A to XFD. Now this doesn't mean that you cannot add more columns. You can insert more columns, of course. Once you right click on the last column, it gives you the option to insert. So there are different options here. You can, let me just do that here so you can see the list of the options. We have cut, copy, paste, paste special, insert one column left, insert one column right. So when you click on insert one column left, you see that a new column has been added, AA. So with Google Sheets, you have the leverage to insert as many more columns as possible. But in Excel, you can, once you get to XFD, that's the final, the last column you have in Excel, in fact, higher versions of Excel. Then in Google Sheets, let's see the last row. To get to the last row, okay, how did I get to the last column? I got to the last column by pressing my Control and the right arrow key. Okay, let's just open up on screen keyboard so that you see how to navigate this spreadsheet. So now I'm selecting the first cell in the sheet. To get to the last cell by the right, hold on Control key and press this right arrow key. Once you do that, you arrive at the last column by the right. Okay, and you can insert more columns by right clicking and selecting insert one to the right. So I've inserted AB, so this is AA. AB by default it stops at column Z, so now we have AA, AB. When you insert more by the right, you have AC. When you insert more again, let's move this on screen keyboard so we can see the options. When you insert more by the right again, you have AB, AA, AB, AC, AD, and it continues that way. Okay, so let's get back to the leftmost part of the sheet. Select any cell and select Control and the left arrow. Gets you to the leftmost part of the sheet of the column. So to get to the end of this row, like the last row on the list, hold Control and the page down button. So that brings us to the last row. And here in Excel, in Google Sheets, you have 1000 row by default, but you can add as many more rows as you want. So you can see add 1000 more rows at the bottom. Once you hit add, it gives you 1000 more rows. Let's see what happens. So you can see that we've added 1000 more rows, which is 2000. You can keep adding 3000, 4000, 5000, 6000. So you can add as many more rows as possible. But by default, it begins with just 1000 rows, and that is how you work with Google Sheets. All right. So let's hide this for now. Again, I said a sheet is made up of rows and columns. So we have the rows are numbered, that is, these are the rows, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have the columns, which has letters, letter A, B, C, D, up to Z, and you can insert more. And the sheet, the spreadsheet also comes in form of a workbook. So we call this spreadsheet package. Just the document is a workbook. Now, workbook meaning that you can insert more worksheets. So this is sheet 1. I can have more sheets. You can just hit on the add button to have sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5, sheet 6, and so on and so forth. So you can have as many sheets as possible. Now you can also rename the sheets. Let's call this my sheet. Let's call this my sheet. You can rename by just clicking on right clicking on the sheet name. You right click. There are different ways to do that. You can right click and click on rename another sheet, and then okay, let's call this rename my sheet. I didn't give it the complete name. My sheet, another sheet. Then another way to rename is to hit this arrow button, this drop down. Once you hit the drop down, it gives you the same list. Select rename and then give it any other name. Okay, so that is how to rename sheets. And this sheet can be moved from one position to another. I can bring any other name to be the second list. I can take another sheet to be this list. So this can be moved around. So that is a spreadsheet for you. Now you can do all of this also in Excel if you're working with Microsoft Excel. Okay, and we can expand the width of the columns. So I can expand this column width. I can expand the column width. I can reduce the column width. I can also expand and reduce the row. So how to do that is just make sure your arrow is at the at this point, the line between 1 and 2. Once you bring your arrow there, you would see that the arrowhead will change to like a two-headed arrow or a two-head arrow. Can expand and reduce this column and row width. Okay, so that is the flexibility we have in spreadsheets. Okay, and spreadsheets you can take in data. All right, so let's say now to highlight more rows or more columns. So hold on the first, select shift, press on shift, select the second row and select the third row, and you can just do your expansion once to affect every rows that you've selected at the same time. So if you want to expand or reduce the row with the same, so everything has the same kind of width, you highlight all rows or columns of interest, and then you expand or reduce. Okay, now at this point, let's just go ahead and just see how to um yeah, to move around the rows. You can just use an arrow, your mouse to click around, to move around the cells. You can click around the cells to move around them. You can also move around with your tab key. So press tab. I'm pressing the tab key now. Let's get our keyboard open again. When you press tab, let's select control. Tab. Once you press it, my arrow is here. The selected cell is here. Tab takes you to the next one. Tab. You can move around with tab. You can also move around with your arrow key, down, left. You can go up, you can go right. Okay, and you can also move around with enter. So when you press enter, it gets back to the next arrow. So here, when you press enter, it selects the cell. Press enter again, it gets to the next cell below. So that is how to move around your cell. Okay, and one more thing I would like you to take note about before we go. The cell has each cell has a name. So this is A1. So A1 here tells you that this is cell A1, that is is seated on column A and row 1. This is cell B1 seated on column B and row 1. This is cell C5 because the highlighted or selected cell is seated on column C and row 5. So please, it's very important that you know the very different names of this cell by looking at the name box. In fact, that is called the name box. So well, this is a spreadsheet, and I hope that with this little explanation or introduction, you now understand what a spreadsheet is. You can perform calculations, you can type in text data, numeric data, you can type in text in the cells. Okay, let's increase it a little bit. You can type in text, you can type in numbers, you can type in date time objects 0408 2024 and so on and so forth. You can type in financial data, you know you can type in different type of data. Spreadsheets can take or accept different types of data, and more. All right, so this is our spreadsheets. So we're going to be learning this over the next 2 weeks, and I'm excited to show you more about spreadsheets and to teach you how to perform do some analytics with spreadsheets. All right, thank you for watching this. This is where we come to an end of the introduction to spreadsheets and Google Sheets specifically. We would look at the interface. This next video, you learn the basic interface of spreadsheet package. All right, thank you and see you in the next one. Goodbye.